Hey everyone, my name is Yukabeth, and this is God is Everything podcast. So this is episode 13. We are caught up. Last week I had to do 2 episodes because but from now on, it will be 1 episode per week. And honestly, there's just so much material. God has been really just opening my eyes, and it could just be in the most mundane moments of my life where God is like, oh, that's a lesson. Oh, that's another lesson. There's so much to talk about. There's so much. And this is not even, we haven't even touched the surface. Really, we have not even touched the surface. But I just really enjoy, and it's fulfilling for me when I can talk about God and talk about Him in a practical way. So the title for this episode is called When You Limit God, You Limit Yourself. When you limit God, you limit yourself. And this is based on Psalms chapter 50, verse 11 to 12. Verse 11 says, I know every bird in the mountains, and the creatures of the field are mine. If I were hungry, I would not tell you, for the world is mine and all that is in it. When God says, I own everything and everything in it, you have to approach that with faith, because there are days where it doesn't seem. There are days where you don't feel like he does, right? And if you don't get to a point, you don't actually get to the point where you believe this 100%, then you can't move forward. I was watching a video on TikTok of this creator, and she said that in the ministry of Jesus, there's a lot of people that followed him, that witnessed the miracles he did, but never actually experienced the miracles for themselves because they couldn't get past the fact that he was a carpenter. They couldn't get past the fact that he was Joseph's son. And because of that, they only saw him as a carpenter, which limited what, what they received from him. And a lot of us are doing the same thing. We don't see God to be this omnipotent. We don't see God to be the alpha and the omega of our lives. And so because we don't see him in that light, in that way, we're not receiving anything from him because we're not asking of anything from him. We're not reaching out to touch the garment of Jesus. We're not reaching out to be healed. We're not reaching out to be transformed. And so as a result, a lot of Christians have this form of godliness, this form. It's just a form, nothing to it, no substance, nothing, empty. And you can do all the religious activities, you can do all of them, go 100%, but never actually get to experience the transforming power of God. I was reading the story of the persistent widow, and it's a story Jesus shares with his followers. And he says that, there was this judge and there was this persistent widow who would literally come time and time again asking for justice from the judge. And although the judge was not a great person, didn't care about nobody, the judge eventually granted justice to this widow because she was persistent. And so Jesus was saying that if the judge could grant justice to, the widow, imagine what God can do to his chosen ones. God can grant you justice, and can grant you justice quickly if you are persistent. So it's not enough to just ask. You have to ask persistently, consistently. And at first when I was reading that, I was like, why do we have to be consistent? Like, it's for us, it's for our own benefit. Because when you ask God for something over and over, it's a way to be connected to him. It's a way to keep you on track. It's a way to remind yourself where you're going. But to get to that point, you have to believe in God. And I know that seems so simple, but a lot of people do not take God at his word. They don't actually believe in God. They believe in the idea. They believe that God is a God they see in church. They believe that God is the God they see through their parents. Don't limit God, because if you limit God, you limit yourself. And if you limit yourself, you limit what you get and you limit what you ask for. Wait, I'm going to say that again. If you limit God, you limit yourself. And if you limit yourself, you limit what you ask for. And if you limit what you ask for, you limit what you get. The way you view God is the way you view the world and everything else. That's why the devil, he tries to attack us when we're adolescents, when we're really, really young, especially our mindset. Because if he can minimize your perspective of God, if he can minimize how you view the world, how you view yourself, then you're not able to actually ask for anything. You're not able to ask for more. Like once you know who you are, what can you not do? Where can you not go? Like who can actually intimidate you once you know who you are? And that's why the devil the more and that's why when you look at the devices and the weapons the devil has, it's to tear you down. The imposter syndrome. Like when I'm in a place where I'm easily bruised, my ego is bruised, my self-esteem is bruised, it's like easily bruised. To me, that's indication that I'm not spending enough time with God. Like when you can hurt my feelings, that means I'm not that means I'm not spending time with God. If I can be easily swayed and easily persuaded and easily just like convinced that I'm not that girl and I'm not her and I'm not work, that means I'm not spending enough time with God. That means I need to increase my minutes with God. But it starts with knowing God. Everything starts there. You can't move to level if you don't know who God is. And you have to know who God is for yourself. Because one thing I learned about the story of Jesus, he met everybody at a different place. Like he met every single person at a different place. And so it's not enough to know God through your parents. It's not enough to know God through someone else's perspective. You have to know God for yourself. He has to meet you at your place, wherever that place is. He has to meet you. He has to talk to you in a tone that works for you, in a pace that works for you. This concludes this episode of God is Everything podcast.